I think in the weaker part of the market usually are the producer, like the farmers usually take the risk. And I think one of the points that I think is very important, but many of them don't give so much the light, is the fact that the sea market that rules everything, even the roasters, which are in front of that, and behind that, there are the farmers. They divide these two parts. Nobody understands well how this works.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop, It's Time to Become a Coffee Consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 2 in a 5-part series with Jonas Ferraresso. Jonas is an agronomist from Brazil, and Jonas has been on the podcast a lot, talking about a lot of the things that we really need to understand about coffee production in general, but specifically in Brazil. And in this series, we're getting an update from Jonas because it's been a couple of years since he's been on the podcast, but we're getting an update on what's going on in Brazil in 2024. 2024 is kind of it seems to be a year in the history of coffee that seems to be that it's going to inform what comes next. And at the cornerstone of all of that is the challenges that producers are going to face. And so, Jonas, in Brazil, and we've had a bit of an insight into this when Fabrício Andrade came on the podcast and told us what he thinks the challenges that producers in Brazil are facing. But it's different. Different people get to see different things in the same industry. So what are the challenges that coffee producers in Brazil are facing? And then we're going to talk about how they're going to approach that in a year that seems to be like it's going to decide what the future of coffee is. So what are the challenges?
I think today the costs with people is something that having the most impact in coffee, because, to make a fertilizer cheaper, we develop a new technology, make it cheaper. So with new inputs and things like that, but people are always people. We need them to grow and they need to pay their bills too. So if I hire a picker, they need to have a fair salary, a fair wage, for to sustain their family and everything they need. So, and we are in a scarcity of people's, right?
Scarcity. Yeah, we have a labor shortage.
Yeah, labor shortage of people in the coffee, in the fields. It's not just in the coffee. Because, it's not easy to work in a coffee fields or any kind of field. It's risky. We have snakes, spiders, sunlight, and everything that's want to kill you that's in the coffee field. So it's risky. Yeah. It's not like to go to
stand behind the bar in a cafe.
Yeah. It's risky. You have to wake up earlier. And the payment is not fantastic because farmers are even struggling to pay their bills. So, of course, they are trying to pay a fair price, but they need to make some money too. And so it's not easier, even if you have all the good conditions of work. And we know a lot of places, there are people that are not respecting that. So people are not interested. Okay, I go to work in a coffee shop or in a store or in a bookstore. It's so much easier in terms of, not in terms of the job, but in terms of the exposure of this kind of risks. So labor shortage, it's a big challenge in Brazil. And that is why the mechanized coffee grows so much in Brazil. There's a reason for that. It's first because of that. And second, because of costs of labor, like I said to you. And today, I think even the mechanized areas, a lot of farmers, I think, are not thinking about expand too much because it's still coffee and it's still risky. So the farmer need to plant the coffee, wait 3 years, buy a lot of very, very expensive equipment because all the equipment for harvesting coffee is very, very expensive. So the farmer in that area thinks, okay, maybe it could grow maize or soybeans or anything that in Brazil we could harvest 3 times an annual crop, like soy and corn, because of our climate conditions. Different of like United States, you have a short season to grow everything, and then the climate is not too good for that. But in Brazil, many regions grow 3 annual crops in 1 year.
Wow.
So the farmer think, okay, I could earn money 3 times, or grow coffee and wait 3 years and let's see what happens in the market. Because when you grow corn, maize or soybeans or whatever, it's a short time to analyze the market. So the market's good. It's hard to fall in 90 days. So I could take the risk to grow that. But when you take coffee, okay, let's go coffee. Which price will be the coffee in the next 3 years after I grow coffee? And not only the third year, but the fourth, the 50th, and so on. When I grow grain, I harvest the corn and the price drops. So I do not grow anymore. I change to another crop. So even in flat areas, I saw that movements happen. So instead of expanding, because the area is already good for any kind of crop, not just coffee. Farmers are starting to think maybe I could grow something different instead of coffee.
Reduce their risk.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Jonas already knows this because we were talking about this off air, but fun fact for everyone who's listening. I looked up the price on the C market for coffee today, and it's $2.19. And I looked at the peaks since the C market started in 1979. And folks, that's more than 45 years ago. And do you know that the day that the market opened at $2.16 a pound. So it's the other way. It opened at $2.19 and today it's at $2.16. So we are less today than we were 45 years ago. And I think it's only 7 times since then has the price actually reached $2.19 in 45 years. And coffee production has gotten harder. Labor has gotten more scarce. Climate impact has gotten harsher. It's gotten more expensive to grow coffee. And yet somehow we seem to think that we can make demands of coffee producers that are like wild. I don't understand it. And I know that people contact me and they say, you're really hard on coffee roasters. You had time to figure out how to work well in this coffee supply chain. We are bearing the consequences now of the work that we didn't do over the past 45 years. We kicked the can down the road and kicked the can down the road and kicked the can down the road. And there were plenty of people who warned us that this would happen. And now that we're living the consequences of not taking action earlier, there's no more road to kick the can down. And as a result, I cannot tell you the number of producers that are contacting me and saying, we're not growing, we're not expanding, as you were saying. So it's not only are they not expanding, they're pulling up 50% of their crop, and the land that coffee was grown on, they're growing other things, whether it be soy, whether it be avocados, different kinds of pineapples and fruits and things like that. Because first of all, the crops are less complex. It's much easier to grow them and harvest them. And second of all, they don't have to stress about the industry that they have to deal with. So this is the consequence. We're bearing the consequences of either not getting informed, not having relationships, or not caring about the way that we participated. And I've got to ask you, Jonas, at Origin, what is the feeling from your experience? Like, is there an awareness from producers that they have been let down?
You mean the price?
The price, but let down by the fact that, you know what I mean? Like, on the consuming end, we haven't supported producers the way that they deserve to be supported. Are producers aware of that?
Yeah, I think in the weaker part of the market usually are the producer, like the farmers usually take the risk. And I think one of the points that I think is very important, but many of them don't give so much the light, is the fact that the sea market that rules everything, even the roasters, which are in front of that, and behind that, there are the farmers. They divide these two parts. Nobody understands well how this works. Even the roaster and the farmer. And one thing is this sea market drives everything. So the prices, the stocks, the international and domestic prices. And it's really complicated to talk about standardizing market like sea market, because no matter in a world you are, everyone will look at the sea market and say, okay, the market is 200, I could pay that. No matter it's a specialty, regenerative, they influence everything. But like you said, in the beginning, these prices is okay, like 200 cents, because we have a great margin to take the risk for that. So no matter, okay, we have a frost and we have a shortage of labor or something like that, or a climate event, I can take, the farmers could take that because they still have a lot of margin to work. Along the years, the margin were getting tight. And this happens usually with all the crops that are in the commodity market and is not annual. So like oranges, coffee, and cacao, because the risks are bigger in that. So in my humble opinion, the sea market for that crops need to be different, because we're facing the consequences now. The farmers say it's too risky to grow coffees. The sea market do not give enough of money. The farmer do not understand well how it works, and the customer don't have an idea that exists beyond coffee. The most of the customers that I ask about coffee price thinks the farmers sell the coffee like someone sell a cup of coffee in the store. So they take the costs for the profit, and then you sell the 10 cups a day and make your money. But coffee is different. Like in the farms, they do everything, and maybe they will not have profit, no matter how much coffee they grow, because the costs are below
below the cost of production.
Below the cost. Yeah. So, but most of the customers don't know that. They just think, okay, they are paying some kind of price or something like that. So the farmers are aware of that, and this is why they are not, interested. And
Enthusiastic.
we know new generations they are thinking about, okay, maybe it's not a good idea to grow coffee like my father, and my father is not excited to expand or things like it. They are. I saw farmer as someone tired of this bunch of stuff, so they are not more willing to pay the price for everything.
Well, and my mother's family are farmers in Syria, and I talk a lot with my mother about what was like. They grew potatoes and they grew watermelons and grapes and things like that. And she would say to me, "But Lee, this is the life of a farmer. That nothing is certain, and everything moves with the harvest." And farmers are usually very religious people, and they believe that God is going to provide with the rain, going to provide with the soil and the harvest and all of this kind of stuff. I have a suspicion that has changed. I have a suspicion that the producer's faith in the supply chain and in people to want to work together to achieve this is just getting too hard, and they're too tired. And the new generations that are coming in, they don't quite have the same kind of faith because they watch their parents struggle constantly, and they don't want the same life for themselves, and they're not going to put their future in the hands of a time that's completely changed. They weigh up the realities. I speak to a lot of new generation producers, and there is one common thing. A lot of them are considering that they might be the last generation to produce coffee.
Exactly. Same here.
So it's a very challenging time. I don't know if we have much hope of being able to change it. When I speak to these producers and I say to them, usually off air or one-on-one conversations, if it's not a podcast, when I ask them, what do you think is the biggest problem that coffee is facing? They all say the same thing. I think that coffee is going to become a luxury product, and it's not going to be as available as it is now. And they want to make sure that they get out before the kind of everything falls apart. And that I look at technology. I'm somebody who really looks for hope and opportunity in fixing problems. That's my forte. I'm a scientist. I like fixing problems. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know where where this path takes us. I know it's going to force some kind of innovation. I know it's going to force some kind of change. But we're in a very challenging moment in history as a global community, not just in coffee. And I think that a lot of the external forces, which kind of sets us up for the next conversation perfectly, because we're going to talk about geopolitics. I didn't do that intentionally, but I'm so glad that worked out that way. But we are in a situation at the moment where geopolitics is going to really play on food security as a kind of a war tool as tensions start to mount. So let's go and have a conversation about that. Join us in the next episode, folks. I promise we're going to keep it as neutral as possible and as not political as possible as we have a conversation about geopolitics. Good luck to us. Okay, see you in the next episode, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon, and stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward.